we're going to be going over today. Let me share my screen for just a second here. Then we're going to back up and open up with a little open discussion. So we're going to be talking about different levels of fitness. All right. So how to evolve from an injury to an athlete. All right. Being elite. So none of us are where we want to be. That's why we are right here, right now. That's why we're in this journey. So, my goals for today are to help you understand where you lie right now, like what to classify yourself as. Are you? It's important for you to know if you're a phase two beginner or if you're like halfway intermediate, halfway advanced. Because what's going to happen? We're going to go through the checklists of everything that's included in these different levels of fitness, and wherever you see yourself classified at, you're going to look to the next step up. You're going to go, what's the difference? All right, and we're going to point out those differences within this hour. And by the end of this implementation, you're going to know exactly what you need to focus on to get to that next level. All right, if you're from a beginner and you need to go intermediate, we're going to point out the main handful of things that's going to take you to that next level. What that's going to end up happening is you progress through our program, you get better results, put you one step closer towards achieving your end goal. How's all that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Making sure that we're in a sensible conversation. We're all ready for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I want to open up. Rosemary, I'm gonna ask you first. How would you, right off the bat, tell you what? Let me share my screen again. If you had to choose levels, all right, maybe I'll highlight these things. All right, how as I'm highlighting these, let me know which one you think that you're gonna fall into. Without reading all the descriptions. So we got beginner, phase two beginner, intermediate.
I would either say I was phase two beginner or intermediate.
Between phase two
That's
beginner
somewhere.
and intermediate. Okay. So we're going to come back to that. I want you to remember you said that. You're between phase two and intermediate. Takia, I'm asking you the same question right now. We got elite, advanced, intermediate, phase two beginner, phase one beginner, aka just beginner. You all are definitely not rehab or injury, although we will cover those. Takia, what do you classify yourself as?
I want to say, wait, stop scrolling.
All right.
I want to say phase phase two beginner.
Okay.
From what it looks like.
So this second page is where y'all believe y'all are at right now. And
Yeah, I think so.
okay, now the next thing, what do we aspire to be? And keep in mind, I'm asking this question, and this requires an honest answer with yourself. Like myself, I'm not, there's no way I can get myself out of this because it's just who I am. I want to be elite. All right. I'm not happy until I've covered all of that.
Yeah.
All right. Not everybody wants to. Some people don't even give a shit about being a beginner. They're like, fitness? I don't care about that. So
Right.
it's all about what you want. Rosemary, I'm coming back to you first. Where do you want to be?
I'd like to be a good, solid intermediate or maybe advanced.
Somewhere between here, these two.
Yeah.
I think that for what your goals are and what I know of you, and knowing kind of the balance that takes, I think that is perfect for what you're trying to achieve. Takia, what do you think? Where are you trying to get to?
I because of how I was trained, I want to say elite, but I'm gonna be honest with myself, and I want to just be okay with being advanced, if that makes sense.
100%. And the difference in these two, from a look standpoint, like I am somewhere between advanced and elite right now. Just so you all know, I definitely have abs. I'm definitely what I would consider like strong for my pound for pound, and my habits. My habits are just in check, and we're going to cover these things. So both of you all said that y'all are somewhere between like phase two beginner, maybe cracking into intermediate. and both of y'all said that you all are wanting advanced, and Rosemary, you said that you would be okay with still having a couple of intermediate tendencies here. So both trying to level up at least one level, if not two. Here's how we're going to do it, y'all. So I'm going to take y'all from the very beginning. This is going to include a few pieces of information. For instance, everybody's going to have an injury at least once in their life, all right? Or maybe you've had one in the past. And then with new information that I'm about to bring in here, you could either, heal yourself better in the future, or you could look back and say, you know what, if I'd have done that, maybe I would have gone a little better. So we're going to start with a severe injury. This is ground zero. This is, you're in no mode to work out at all. You need to rest and restrict movement until your inflammation and swelling are minimal, all right? They don't have to be all the way gone before we start our therapy, all right? I'm gonna write this. But we do not want, if you have the inflammation and swelling, you do not want to be up on your feet or moving. If it's your shoulder, you don't want to be doing a whole bunch of movement with it, obviously. You want to make sure your recovery habits are in place. All right, that includes sleep. That includes eating the right amount of food. All right, and the not obvious ones, anti-inflammatories. All right, if you get a little injury, make sure you're taking your Tylenol or your ibuprofen every 4 to 6 hours. Those get in the bloodstream and they just help things, instead of being inflamed and pumping and swelling, it helps reduce that inflammation so that swelling can go down, and ultimately it allows that thing to heal over time. All right. Couple of details about ice and heat if you have injuries. And these could be as simple as tennis elbow. Maybe it's not an injury that's going to prevent you from working out. That would be more like tendonitis or bursitis. A lot of times if it's an achy pain, or arthritis, carpal tunnel, if you just have knots, these are the things I'm talking about. All right, so sprains, tears, and itises, things that are legit pain, you move and you're ah. All right, those things need ice. All right, a lot of times, those are the things that are going to restrict your range of motion, and there's visible proof that it's there: swelling, bruising, things of that nature. All right. Heat is for a tight or a pulled muscle. Riley. Sorry, I might have to get my dog in a second. So it starts just 1 second. Okay. Go. Thought we could have the doors open, but apparently we're not grown enough for that. All right, so if the muscle's just tight or pulled, if you got your lower back and you can't, you're not standing upright, that's where you would want to use heat. And in that case, if you think about that muscle, it's bound up. All right, the heat is going to allow it to relax. All right, so there is a difference between something just needing to relax and it actually being damaged. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah.
My dog said it makes perfect sense. Lay down right there. Sit down.
We're gonna eat in a minute.
All right. Now, once you're to a point where you do not have inflammation and swelling, right? If you get to that point, that's when it's okay to go ahead and start your rehab and your therapy. You want to make sure you keep it low impact, keep the limited range of motion. So you're not just jumping out here, just going, yeah, right off the bat. All right. You keep it low impact, limited range of motion. So maybe you're just doing from here to here, starting to get some blood flow with light weight. You see minimal resistance. All right. Minimal light stretching daily. Again, let me turn this a little bit. If I just mess my shoulder up, I'm not just going to jump in right after my rest period. I'm not going to go into therapy and start just going and cranking on that all of a sudden, okay? What I would do is apply some light pressure maybe here and then slowly rotate into it, rotate out. All right, you want to start small if you have those injuries as you're trying to build back up into being able to do greater things. All right, have either one of you all ever heard of the Rice method?
I don't think so.
No? All right, RICE. Here's what it stands for. The R is for rest. All right. When you're in rehab, you want to make sure you're getting enough rest. The I is for ice. Again, you're trying to dull the inflammation. And a lot of times whenever you're getting back to movement, you're getting back to a little stretching, that's going to aggravate that muscle or tendon again. Part of this is that we got to let ourselves heal 90%. All right. And then getting into therapy is going to bring us back to 70. But then we get that rest and that ice, that brings us back to 92. And then the next time we do our therapy, we go down to 75. But then we heal back up. Now we get to 95. Then we go back to 80 and then to 97 and then to 90 and then to 99. You see how that works? You get closer and closer within that range until you're fully healed. So that's where the ice is coming in to help dull that inflammation and let that happen. C is for compression and E is for elevate. All right. So whenever I sprained my ankle, I used to be in here with the ice pack on my ankle. We would take saran wrap or an ace bandage, get it real tight on there. We would compress it. And I'm not going to put my table, but I would get my leg up like this and I would just relax 20 or 30 minutes every night. That's part of what I did to get my ankle in better shape, which you all know I've been bragging about a lot lately. I'm able to sprint again and everything. So I've taken myself back out of these two zones and we're getting ourselves worked back up this whole list. This is literally what I've done to get myself back into the routines. All right. Do you have any questions yet?
No, not yet.
All right. This is where we're going to start here. I'm kind of going to fly through beginner. I'm going to tell y'all right now, neither one of y'all are beginners. Y'all definitely made it through that phase. Learning full warm-up routines. Are both of you all confident that you know how to warm up properly?
Yes.
Okay. And Rosemary, that knee, it was giving you some issues. Has the knee issue subsided yet?
It's getting better, but it's been really bad this week, but I think it's because my muscles are really tight.
They are. Are you doing rice?
Well, I'm doing the foam rolling and stretching. Like I skipped a workout today to stretch and foam roll, and then I just took a walk and it was better.
Okay. Yeah. So that's that low impact, minimal resistance. You did some light stretching. All right. I need you to make sure you're limiting your range of motion in boot camp until that's done. Don't try to squat deep and stuff. Don't try to like do the leg extensions all the way up with your legs. And then I really need you to crack down. What you're doing is I would call slightly progressive. I want to get like fully progressive with things. Have you lock in on that RICE method: rest, ice, compression, elevate. And after the workouts is the perfect time to do that. Whenever everything's, warm, it's got some good blood flow through it. The blood has brought new nutrients into that muscle. And whenever you apply that compression and that ice and you elevate it, that muscle, it clamps down and it locks those nutrients in. All right. And those nutrients are then going to provide your muscle with fuel so that it can heal itself.
Okay.
Right? So crack down on that RICE method after every workout. And even like today, you said you went for a walk. I would have done some light stretching after that and then went through the RICE method right after that.
Okay, I got it.
All right. Takia, you know your full warm-up routines? Did we lose Takia? We did. It's just me and you, Rosemary.
Okay.
All right. Low impact. We've been there. We've done that. Minimal resistance. You're past that phase. You're starting to get stronger. Building range of motion. You're past that. You've got the full range of motion going on, except for right now with that knee. You're beyond a 30 to 45 minute workout with a walking pace. 3 to 4 workouts per week. That's one maybe that you're still in right there. How many workouts a week are you doing?
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
I try to hit that 4.
Okay. Long breaks while body moderates energy. You're past the long breaks. Experience no muscular fatigue. Are you pushing yourself now at points to where you have muscular fatigue?
Absolutely.
Okay. Figuring out your body's weaknesses and imbalances. So we have figured out that there is a weakness / imbalance. One of those knees is worse than the other. So that is something that you are being progressive about. You've figured that out. Is there anything else in your body that you would think is a weakness or an imbalance of sorts right now?
Like, you mean if one side is weaker than the other, that kind of thing, or?
Right.
And I know my core is weak.
Core is weak. Okay, so we need to, oh, Takia, you're here. Sorry, I can't see you. All right, it's hard for me. I can't check this Q&A unless I stop sharing as well, so keep that in mind here. You said the core is weak. Okay, so I want you to make notes right now. If you're taking any notes, that you're gonna put the Rice method into play, and you're gonna start working on your core strength. That is part of what your body's weaknesses are right now.
Right.
All right. Anything else you can think of?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. And Takia, if you can unmute and speak in at any point, I'm talking to you too. So keep in mind, I just don't see your name right here. So I might not think to say, call on you here. All right. Weekly recovery habits. Do you stretch?
Yes.
Do you focus on getting the right amount of calories?
Yes.
And do you sleep well?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay. And I know that that's one that we don't have like full control over. So whenever I'm talking about that, know that I'm meaning like, are you someone who tries to get enough rest regularly?
Yes.
Takia, if you would try to jump out of here and rejoin in. Either that, or there should be a little camera icon down in the corner of the screen about right here. You can click that camera icon, that might bring you back in. Try one of those for me. All right, and then focus on eating. Riley, hold on. I'm gonna mute myself. All right, I just had to whisper to her real quick, you know, just go to bed. Just go to bed. All right, focusing on eating healthy foods and drinking water regularly. Is that something that is on your daily agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So you are covering literally everything to do with beginner. You are definitely, you've got that covered. We're going to phase 2. We're going to see if you can cover everything in phase 2. If we can, then we know you're intermediate. All right. So you show up early and start your warm-ups.
Yes.
All right. Have you started learning about your metabolism?
Yes.
All right. You're keeping things low impact.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Low impact. Okay. So bring this up over here. Welcome to our living room. So low impact would be the difference in a squat like that, or a higher impact squat would be, and then a really high impact squat would be a squat jump.
Oh yeah, no, I can do that.
Different levels of impact that your joints and your muscles are taking on.
Right.
Would you call yourself low impact?
Yes.
Okay. Have you done a slight increase on resistance?
Does that mean going up in weight and that kind of stuff?
Does.
Yes.
Excellent. Full range of motion. All right. A lot of people, when they start lifting weights and everything, they're from here to here. Have
Right.
you taken the step to start getting all the way down here and then extending all the way up?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, and then 30 to 45 minutes. Again, I think you're past this walking pace on a lot of things.
Right.
So yes. Learning how to moderate breaks for when the heart rate needs to come down.
Right.
And you're fully aware that you use those heart rate monitors, you use them beautifully. Doing homework to improve weaknesses and imbalances. Okay, so phase 1 beginner is figuring out what your weaknesses and your imbalances are. Phase 2 is actually doing things to attack those to improve them. So with the knee, you have been doing those warm-ups, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I think that this is something that you need to implement. You need to start doing your homework with the Rice method on that knee.
I ice it a lot.
Ice, okay. Make sure you got compression on there. Make sure it's elevated. And then right after that workout, okay? That timing does matter. It needs to still, like, you can't be cooled down. You know, you got like 10 or 15 minutes, but right when you get home, put that ice on there for me.
Okay.
All right, and then the core, you said the legs and the upper body are quite a bit stronger than the abs seem to be.
Right.
You doing some extra core work, or at least making sure that if you can get to boot camp on core days, that you're there, you're working on that. You do maybe a little extra core warm up.
Yeah, and we have the ab wheels that we try to do at home. We like
the ab wheel, awesome.
Yeah, we try to challenge each other on that.
Okay, that's a really good one, because number one, that can just be in the living room.
Right.
And then that builds so much strength in the core, that ab wheel. What I'd recommend too with that, do different types of ab wheel. Like, you know how the negatives, how we go real slow as we're going out. And then some days do the pulse reps. You can go really short range of motion and just get a lot of reps in some days. Let's see what else I like doing with the ab wheel. Some days I just try to hold a palm plank on it and just balance and not fall from the toes, like get the knees up off the ground and just hold it there. That's tough. So I would mix that up as much as you can.
Okay.
All right. Are you experiencing, you said you're experiencing light muscular fatigue.
Yeah.
Recovery habits the same, focus on healthy foods and water regularly. And on top of that, do you get at least 3 meals and 1 snack per day and 100 ounces or more of water per day?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So
the water I
much
kind of struggle with, but I'm close.
Okay. So we got this one. Let's see, I'm going to do a little highlighter action here. Struggle with a little bit, and you've started on this one. We still got a little bit of extra homework that you need to start implementing.
Right.
But we're looking good so far. You've graduated everything else into the next round here. So let's see what you got intermediate. All right. Have you started doing things that are moderate impact? This would be like jumping jacks. This would be side shuffles. You know, maybe not full on big jumps, but stuff where you're bouncing.
I attempt them. It depends on how my knee is. Jumping jacks, I usually like run in place and do my arms. It's that jumping down my knee that causes trouble, and the sideways.
We need more improvement before we get there. And here's the thing is your knee and your muscles, they might be able to support it. We might just need to get rid of that inflammation to make that happen, because sometimes, and this is something that I've learned in the sports world, athletes get a little bit hurt, and because your nervous system, when that nerve experiences inflammation, it sends a signal to your brain real quick, and your brain literally tells your muscles, don't work, because your brain's trying to protect you. So could be that we just need to get that inflammation under control in your knee, and then all of a sudden you're jumping like crazy and it's no big deal. So keep that in mind here, that you might not be too far away from being able to do some bouncing around.
Right. Sometimes I can get like a couple in, and then I have to go back to not.
Right. Okay. Do you go back to it because of fatigue or because of inflammation?
It usually starts hurting and then I stop.
Okay. I want you to cut that all the way out, like make that a roll in your head. Like for instance, with my ankle, I had to make myself, I said, no jogging, nothing but walking, until I knew I was confident that I could jog without re-inflaming it. So I had to get to a point where I felt better, and then I still waited 2 or 3 weeks and did some therapy to build a little strength up in it before I started really putting some impact on it again. I think you should hold yourself to that same standard.
Okay.
All right. If you haven't drunk any water recently, let's get it in. Okay. You use moderate resistance. Would you say that you have gotten past light resistance on your weights? Are you into that next phase where you consider it moderate?
I would say, yeah.
Okay, I would say too. All right. Do you use full range of motion and focus on improving your form with all the normal variations at boot camp?
It's a work in progress yet.
Okay. How close are you to achieving that, do you think?
It depends on how heavy I go on some of the weights, and because I notice, as Zach will say, well, back down in the weight because your form is.
Oh yeah, no, especially like things like bent rows where you're
Yeah.
bent over and you have to keep that back flat. You get too heavy, that back
Right.
starts wrinkling out, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of, I would say that, keep in mind, it doesn't say with perfect form. All right. It says with focus on improving form. I think that because you're increasing the weight into the moderate resistance, you are focusing on improving that. So I think you're right there. All right. Have you done 60-minute workouts?
Oh yeah.
Right. Pace. Have you seen an improvement on how fast you can move or how long you can move without needing to take a break?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. And I know that you do change your intensity based off if you had that cheat meal or not too. So you're good there. You're
Right.
checking out your intermediate there. Are you getting 4 to 5 days per weekend?
I try to do 4 classes a week, and then we walk every day.
Okay. So yeah, you're getting that. Good. Stays in appropriate zones for workout. Yes. I'm going to put heart rate right there. All right. Breaks start getting shorter as your body's energy systems adapt. You just said yes to that. And the reason being for that is our cells, each individual little cell in our body, which we have like billions of, they need practice. All right. They convert nutrients and phosphates. They come together. They create like this little mini explosion in your body that fuels you. It creates energy. They can get more efficient at that, but they can't just jump from being like no practice into extremely efficient. Everything is just a process of a stepping stone. So it's almost like, you know, the more I practice my jump shot in basketball, the better my percentage goes up. The more that you practice getting your heart rate up and eating healthy, your body's going to practice its percentage of efficiency and regulating your body's energy. So you're going to start to get more energy without having to move as much. All right. So that's kind of where we're going at with this is you are conditioning wise, you are intermediate. All right. You experience moderate muscular fatigue regularly. That means you're able to push yourself in the boot camps to where you feel that burn. You said yes to that.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Do you stretch for 10 minutes at least twice per week?
Oh yeah. I come in early just to stretch and get it already before class.
Okay. I'm going to bring something. I got a detail about that I want to tweak a little bit and tighten up your warm-up routine. But first, do you foam roll if and when you feel some knots or some tightness?
I am starting to add that in because I wasn't good about doing that. So I am doing that.
A week or two, you told me that Zach was starting to show you that, right?
Right.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to put that on here that I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the yellow. That is a little something that we can work on. Let me see if Takia has said anything back in here. Takia, I cannot see you now. If you're still in here, I'm going to try every few minutes to come back to this panel. If you have any questions, type something. Type a question if you've got it. All right. All right, you have started learning your macros and organizing your daily diet. I know that's something we have worked very hard on in the past couple months, so good job on that. All right, pop quiz. What are your macronutrients?
You mean the names of them? Like protein, carbs, fat?
Proteins, carbs, fats. You said it. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And what does having a balanced diet mean?
Getting the exact amounts of those per meal.
Yes.
Like you said, fats are like 10.
Yeah, an equal amount.
Yeah.
So definition, you would want an equal amount of calories coming from each one of your macronutrients. So if you had a 300 calorie meal, you'd want 100 calories coming from fats, 100 from carbs, and 100 from protein. Good job. All right. have you focused on removing the unhealthy foods out of your diet?
Well, yeah, that's the only way that you can get your numbers right.
Exactly. Okay. And is that something that you're struggling with, or do you feel like you've gotten to the point where you've got some control of that?
No, I think I'm doing good in that. The only bad times is like, when there's a party or something, but those are my
Okay.
cheat and I work that in. So no,
That's
I
when
have
it's time. Yeah. That's when it's time to have those things. It's time to celebrate for a minute. That's good.
right.
Okay. Are you eating 4 to 5 times per day
Oh yeah.
and increasing water to a gallon per day?
Well, that's a work in progress.
Okay. I'm highlighting it. Check this out. All right. This girl that used to work for me, young woman, she's amazing. She literally came by the gym today. She moved to Tampa, Florida, about almost 2.5 years ago. She worked for me for like 2.5 years. I literally cried when she left. I've literally taken a trip to Florida to see her because like she means that to me. She came back today, and her whole life has just changed since she's been in Florida. And she's not a trainer anymore. She took a different career path. Had a bit of a spiritual awakening that kind of led to that. But for the first time in her life, she's also like 26 now. She's experiencing that first like 20-pound weight gain. So she's got a trainer of her own now that is helping her stay focused with things. And she was like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was doing everything I knew and nothing was working. She said she got with this trainer and she gave her a whole list of what she's supposed to be doing. The only two things that changed was they added one more 32-ounce bottle of water a day and a 30-minute low intensity cardio session per day, like your walks.
Wow.
So you might only be 32 ounces away from your weight dropping like more. So that's what we were laughing, we were cracking up because she was like, how the hell can just one bottle of water make me lose 20 pounds? But the thing was that it's like over the course of 2 or 3 months that she lost the 20 pounds, that ends up adding up to like 30 gallons of water. So think about that. Like, it's like, okay, it's 20 ounces a day, 30 ounces a day, but in the grand scheme of things, that's a lot of water. That's like, remember how we talked about it connects onto the fat and it carries the fat through the body so it can burn and get out of your body? That we need that water to flush that stuff out. That extra 20 ounces is everything.
Well, and I was starting off like really low. Like if I had a bottle of water a day, that was probably my water intake for the day. So I'm doing really good from where I started.
Okay. Yeah. So we're still we got a couple steps left. You've gotten past the first 4 or 5. When was the last time that you really made like a leap on that?
On the water?
Yeah.
Well, my goal now is to make sure that I drink a full thing of water at like dinner and breakfast and lunch, and then I'm getting it in easier.
Okay. So your body's starting to adapt. That's good. Yeah. And then over time too, I hear a lot of people talk about like trying to drink more water and they just have to go to the bathroom way too much so they don't get it. But I think what I like to, because I go in and out of my water phases too, and in the winter, especially, I struggle to drink enough water because it's not hot. Whenever I'm when I'm trying to get to that next level of water, I'll push myself and give myself a week or 2 of that discomfort, because your bladder tissue, our bladders, they're a little bit different than other organs. They're made to expand quite a bit more, like that tissue is more malleable. And your bladder will actually, once it's used to staying small, but once it's used to expanding, it'll start staying in a more expanded state where it'll hold more liquid for longer. So I like to go through like a push phase for a week or 2. And then once my body adapts, I stay there for a little while, give myself 2 or 3 weeks, and then go through another push phase. That way I'm not always thinking about it. It's just like, again, working your way up.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. So here's what I'm going to do, Rosemary. It looks like you are pretty much between these two. We got a couple of things to focus on. I want to dig into this advanced. I think you might have a couple of tendencies that are advanced, which I want you to acknowledge in yourself. I think that that's something you should give yourself credit for. So let's hustle through these and see what you think about yourself on these. All right. High impact is definitely not it. All right. So we're not there.
No.
Moderate to high resistance. Would you say you've lifted heavy weights yet?
Heavy for me, yeah.
Heavy for you? Okay. No, that's a thing. You know, my heavy and your heavy are going to be different. All
I
right.
mean, before I could only do the bar, and now I've got weights on that, so I can lift. I'm lifting heavier there, and don't go for the 8 weights anymore. I'm going for 15s and 20s.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, are you talking about for things like the overhead press?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like 20s, that's like that moderate to high. Yeah. I would say long term 25s, that's heavy. So I do think that,
just be like a set, but
do what?
I can't do 20s always for the whole thing, but I'm reaching more and more.
Yeah, that's great. No, and eventually I think you can get to 25s. You know, maybe it'll be a few more months, but I definitely think that you have started to get into the moderate and high resistance there. So keep in mind that is advanced. That is something that probably, you know, while you're missing out on the water and what else do we need to improve on a little bit was on maybe some of the healthy foods in the water every day. You might be making up for that and still making progress because you're pushing the limits of your strength in your workouts. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So we do find this a lot too. Like right now, I have a lot of advanced habits. I have a couple of elite ones, but I have a few that because I'm like taking myself with my ankle back through these phases, I'm in beginner 2 phase with a couple things like full range of motion. I'm still working on getting my ankle back to where I can go full range of motion. Check this out. This is kind of crazy, but let's see if I get to this angle right here. All right. So my left knee, if I go with my knee over my toe, that's about as far as I can get before I start feeling pressure right here in the front of my ankle.
Uh-huh.
Now watch my right knee. I'm going to let it go as far as it can. You see how much farther that's look, I'm still going.
Wow.
Still going. All that pressure right there and nothing. So this is something that I can't just jump back into advanced range of motion stuff with my ankle. I can't. I'll be honest. I'm just now starting to squat with a barbell on my back. I was having to put plates under my heels so I put my foot up so that my shin didn't go so far over. So I guess what I was getting at is you're going to have a couple in the advanced. We're always trying to move towards that with baby steps.
Right.
All right. Full range of motions there. Variations. Have you gotten into the point where you've noticed that you've stepped up into variations that are more difficult on purpose?
I don't know if I know which ones are more difficult. I just try to.
Okay. So we're not there quite yet. We'll get there. And exercise intensity modifiers. I definitely expect you to know what that means right off the bat. Intensity modifiers would be things. Let's see, the easiest one to explain. You know how we do those negatives back to the overhead press where we come down really slow?
Right.
All right. And over time, what happens is that fatigues that muscle. So your 10-pound dumbbells end up feeling like 15s or 20s. All right. So that's making it, it's a modification that we do to make it seem more intense than it really is. All right. Another one would be like pulse squats. All right. So limiting the range of motion, keeping constant tension instead of going all the way down, we get a relief right here. All right. We get a relief right here to make it more intense. If we just did this, you skip that relief period. It keeps tension on the muscles. Your legs get more fatigue. All right. You cannot handle as much weight, but it makes it seem more difficult than it really is. So have you started to experiment with any of those intensity modifications?
No.
All right. I do think that that's something that you're ready for. I'm going to highlight this yellow because I want you to work on that. The negatives especially. So what you have two different parts of emotion. All right. So if I'm talking about bench press, I want you to envision your bench press real quick. You're using your chest muscles, your shoulder muscles, your triceps. All right. So when you push that bar away, those muscles contract, right?
Right.
All right. That's called your concentric motion. So contraction, concentric. On the way back, the opposite muscles, your lats and your biceps, they get tight to help you control that weight on the way back. That's called your eccentric motion. All right. So you got your concentric, and then the negative is a slow motion eccentric. What that does is it's slowing down the amount of time that you coast through that, puts the amount of stress on a muscle fiber that makes it stronger. It makes it more dense. So instead of spaghetti hair pasta, we have just a regular pasta as a muscle fiber. All right. I want you to start incorporating some more negatives into your workouts, and for 2 reasons. Number one, it's going to help you improve your strength. That's going to help your knee get past its inflammation. That's going to help your core build more strength, which you said you needed to work on.
Right.
For 2, moving slower, your heart rate's not going to get as high. I think hold on. Were you the person that has to keep?
I'm so low. Like I was in the 50s the whole.
Okay.
Hard time getting out of.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
I can jog in place on all the brakes and barely get it to you.
Maybe if we do half and half, whatever. Yeah. And if you have to stay moving on some of those brakes, you stay jogging, or, get you a little bicycles or plank jacks, something to get some core work in on those brakes so that you can keep that heart rate going. That'd be good for you. All right. So you do have advanced habits with the 60-minute workouts and change the intensity for your nutrition. All right. So the fact, if you had a cheat meal and you come in, that that's a higher heart rate and you do that, that's a very advanced habit. So keep that up.
Okay.
You are doing 4 to 6 days a week because y'all walk every day, depending on needed recovery. All right. So what this means, depending on needed recovery, an advanced habit. All right. For me, for instance, my leg day is not every Wednesday. All right. My leg day, I'm in a rotation with my workouts. I do have a leg day about once a week. Once every 6 to 8 days, I have to have a leg day. But whether it's on day 6, 7, or 8 depends on what if I'm coming into day 6 and my legs are still really tight from what I did on day 4. Maybe I did a long distance run on day 4. I don't want to come into my leg workout with tight legs. I'm not going to get good performance. They need more time to recover. All right. So I might do an upper body workout that day or take the day off. All right. So we're working out and we're moderating our routine of what day it is, depending on if we need recovery. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's why I didn't go to the workout today.
Exactly. So you have an advanced habit there. All right. A lot of people, they're like, no, I go every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or, whatever it is. I don't want to make them sound silly, but there's guys that I know, like, they're like, nah, bro, Monday's bench press day. We bench every Monday. I'm like, yeah, but what if you went kayaking on Sunday and you were doing this all day? Yeah, your shoulders they're beat to shit. Like, you can't do anything on the bench press. So it doesn't make sense. So you see where I'm going with this, though. There's a level of awareness and thought processing in there that is definitely advanced. All right. You stay in the appropriate heart rate zone through workout while going as intense as possible. Would you say that you're pushing the limits of how much weight you can use, how fast you can move on the cardio while still making sure you're in the right heart rate zone?
Yeah. I mean, that's my motivation, is that heart rate thing. I mean, I have to be in that orange.
Okay. That's what I like to hear. And the difference is you pushing your hardest to get there and then breaking when you need to. That's an advanced habit. Or more of a beginner intermediate phase habit is working out whatever pace happens to happen, and then realizing your heart rate is up. So you're like, oh, I guess I need a break. It's a lot more like nonchalant, a little less of an awareness to it. So
I rarely get above orange.
Yeah, and I think that's because you've got those thought processes going on. You're also more of the math brain type where you got
Right.
the checklist, the grid lines. So it's very typical for people like us. All right. Incorporating agility and explosiveness. I don't think we're there because we have a little bit more strength to build in the core and we got to get that knee feeling better. But eventually we'll work on maybe getting a little lighter on your feet, you know, on the ropes. Instead of the ropes just going like this, we'll work on getting you some, I look kind of silly.
Yeah.
Fast
I
movements.
don't go like that. I definitely have that to work on.
That was my heavy metal drumming. I used to be a heavy metal drummer, actually. I don't know if I ever noticed, but I've got Animal tattooed on my arm.
Oh, I never saw that.
He's banging on a trash can with his drumstick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I played drums since I was like 11 years old.
No, I played clarinet, but not drums.
I was in band. They put me on the trombone. I tried it for a year, but I'm a drummer. That's what I do.
8 years band.
Me and Zach tried to jam out one time. It didn't work though. I got to get a house. I got to get my drums set up before we do all that. All right. So only taking breaks whenever it's needed for the heart rate or muscle recovery. I think that's you. That's an advanced habit. You're not someone who, you know, we call a break. You take your time rotating, the timer starts, and you're just not even at your station yet because you were lollygagging. That's not you.
No.
All right. Experiences extreme muscular fatigue regularly. Would you call, like, whenever you're going through that, do you feel the burn and keep going until you're like, dang?
I think it's hard to push to that point. I don't think I've.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Everyone.
That is advanced. I think that where you're at is right here. You're experiencing moderate muscular fatigue. You feel the fatigue. You might do a couple more, but then you're pausing. That is not bad at all. And honestly, for where you're at, I think that's good. Know that if you do want to get like to that next level, a month or two from now, start to try to push yourself more to the extreme muscular fatigue. All right. I'll go ahead and throw a little highlight on that just in case.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
It definitely is. And that's the difference too. Now that I'm crossing back into the advanced and the elite categories on some things, I'm having to push myself to that next level. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. All right. Weekly recovery habits, doing that 10 to 20 minute stretch, maybe doing a little longer and 3 to 4 days per week. And then foam rolling 1 or 2 days per week, just more consistency. All right. I think that might even still be you on some weeks.
Right.
All right.
I try to get in there 20, 30 minutes early to stretch.
Oh, that reminds me. I was going to tell you earlier when we started talking about the stretch routine up here. All right. Same spot. So you said you got to class early and you stretch out real good. Here's the proper order. I was just talking about this with a client. We're talking about how she went to another boot camp and they didn't warm up. And I was like, what? Cause yeah, that's bad. So, and she went to another place before where they did 10 minutes of stretching and then worked out. They didn't warm up. They just like stretched first. So here's the proper routine. You want to warm up, then lightly stretch. I think you might be overdoing the stretch before the workout. So what I mean by lightly stretching, you know, the warm-ups, I mean, we do hip thrusts, we do like the bicycles, we do little low impact jumping jacks, some squats, arm circles, all that stuff. Get some reps in to heat the body up. Now, the light stretching is like when we go wide stance and we're reach. You feel a little mild stretch, but we don't really push it too hard. So this is light stretching. All right, when we sit on the ground like this, and you've seen we do some of these motions, right?
Right.
All right. Now, that's what you want to do after you've warmed up, hit those light stretches, and then do your workout. Now, the heavy stretch comes in after the workout. When your muscles are still hot, this is when I need that 10 to 20 minutes to come in. That's when you're going to go more into static stretch, pushing it. Like now, I'm like trying to get low on it, holding it, feeling that deep stretch right there. I'm not really going to do it because I'm not warm right now.
Right.
You get the difference in the two?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to work on that and get that order right, because sometimes when you stretch too much in the beginning of that workout, especially with that knee being inflamed, the malleability isn't there. So remember the rubber band metaphor. If you take a rubber band out of the freezer and then you try to pull it, bam, it breaks.
Right.
You take a rubber band in front of a heater, and that rubber band will stretch and it'll stretch and it'll stretch. So we got to get that thing real warm, mildly stretch it, work out, then it's going to be real warm. And then after the workout, you're super hot. You can stretch all day.
Okay.
Stretching before it's warm enough, and that might be just re-irritating the knee a little bit.
Okay.
Right. You have been working on proper calories and macros. You have been learning about organizing macros per meal. So that's an advanced thing right there. You've been working on getting your 10 grams of fat, right?
Right.
How many carbs? Another
I
pop.
don't know. It's all in my fitness pal. I don't know.
Per meal, not per day. I want per meal, 20 to 30. All right. How many grams of protein?
Don't know.
20 to 30. All right. All right. You're half and half right now. And then you're doing that. You're working on that. All right. You do have a handful of advanced habits. Your habits for advanced, they come through willingness to work. Okay. So I want to point that out. In my mind, who is that? Jim Rohn. You familiar with Jim Rohn?
No.
He's an old finance guy. He's an entrepreneur. He ended up doing like a lot of like business motivational speaking and stuff later in his career. So he talks about the difference in a workhorse and a show horse. All right. So where a lot of your advanced habits come in, you're a workhorse. You don't mind putting in that work. You're going heavier weight. You're there consistently all the days. You don't mind showing up and doing that. All right. You've put in workhorse on showing up to the classes to learn the information about the macros and about your metabolism and stuff like that. All right. The show horse, it doesn't put in as much work, but what it has is more of like a willingness to be there and to show out. All right. So it wants more attention. All right. So the idea is what Jim Rohn talks about. To be a successful business person, you have to be both. You have to be the workhorse and the show horse. All right. What I want to point out is the show part of this, the stuff that is behind the scenes. All right. It's the stuff that nobody's really going to see that you have to just show up for. That's the water. All right. That's the one main thing that you're missing is the water. All right. That's also the foam rolling. That's also the core work. So I want you to think about that a little bit. It's what it comes down to is willingness to get a little more disciplined in the stuff outside of the gym.
Gotcha.
You know, you do fantastic. I'm very proud of how far you've come already, and I got good faith. We're going to get you into full intermediate habits and still keep a couple of your advanced ones. You're going to make really good progress over the next few months.
Yeah, I'm excited to when I bring my calories back down to see what happens.
Yeah, and that's in a week or two, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'll probably squeeze another week out of this, maybe 2.
Yeah, no, like I said, if the results are still coming, I mean, shit, if you're losing 2 pounds a week, squeeze a month out of it. Enjoy that while you got it. I want you to check in with me weekly. Let me know how that progress is coming along. Let me know if and when you do decide to start dropping those calories back down. And how about in a week's time, let's focus on, I want you to hit that gallon at least one day in the next week. All right, by next Wednesday. One day, hit that gallon. And what was the other thing we're going to work on? Let's see. Let me jump.
Water, foam rolling, core work.
Yeah, it's the core and foam rolling.
Right.
Cool. And then no impact on the knee. That's not really homework. That's just what I want you to stay mindful about in your workouts.
Okay.
All right.
I have to write it down because then it goes in my brain.
I hear you. And I'm going to stay on here for a minute. If you got any questions that pop in your head, you let me know. It was a really good session.
It was a good session.
Honestly,
I'm saying not a lot of people take advantage of them.
right. Yeah. And crazy is I invited 250 people to this. And I'm like, I got 250 people that told me, Greg, I want to get in better health. I want to lose weight. And then I've got 2 people that showed up to actually learn about what it's going to take.
Yeah. It makes a difference when I have to hear it multiple times.
Oh, definitely. No, and that's the beautiful part though, is you've been attending these meetings. I mean, you've been to 3 or 4 implementations by now. I know you've been to probably 5 or 6 nutrition classes. Like,
oh, yeah, at least.
And they all have overlapping information too. I mean, I do repeat myself in some of these things, but that's the point, is that number one, the ideas are connected. You have to learn the full cycle of things. And number two, you need to hear things, 4 or 5 times before you really know it.
Right. Well, and sometimes it doesn't make sense the first time because I didn't understand 3/4 of it. And as I start to learn more things, the other fall into place.
That helped you connect the dots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was like the first 5 years of my career right there.
Yeah. I think I'll always learn something. And someone else might bring up something and it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't even think of that. And
check this out. I'm still experiencing that. Look, I just passed up my 10-year anniversary in this career was in April. So I'm like almost 10 and a half years into my career now. And a couple weeks ago, I was reading, I got this new nutrition book and I was reading and it starts talking about potassium. And I'm like, okay, yeah. First thing pops in my head, bananas, right?
Bananas, right.
And everybody tells you like, oh yeah, eat bananas. It'll help with muscle cramps. I'm like, okay, information. I've heard that. I've passed it along. I know it's good information, but then what happens is potassium, it enters the cell, but it attaches water to the back of it. It pulls water into the cell and forces water from outside of your cells intracellularly. And once your cells get water in them, that cell in the muscle doesn't cramp. All right. When it's dehydrated, it's cramping. And then once you get water into the cell, it's not anymore. So potassium helps with muscle cramps because it forces water into your cells. And I was like, oh my God, that makes sense.
Now see, when I know the whys, I'm a lot like that.
Right.
Like the first class that I went to and you said the water molecules and you did the whole, how they, wrap around, how that's how it gets, I was like, oh my gosh.
Now
that's
it's like
how I went right in, told Kim and got her to join.
Exactly.
That's when she joined the gym with me, is when I start talking about all that.
Yeah, no, and that's the difference. And what I'm trying to do here is, that's why I want to teach people. Like, the motivation only goes so far. You're dumb, and honestly, just pure perseverance is gonna get you the rest of the way.
Well, and how many times have we tried to lose weight? Most of us, a lot of times, and it never happened. Well, there was a lot of reasons. I'm learning that. I mean, water was a huge reason.
Mm-hmm. No,
I put in more work, but I didn't have any knowledge.
Yeah, and water is important, but until you know like exactly how it's working, it's like, sure, it's important. Like, okay,
right. Eating your vegetables and
just some water and eat some vegetables. Yeah, I guess.
Right.
Me and Kim had a conversation earlier, and we even broke this down, like similar to what me and you are saying right now, to understanding why. We started talking about like the way that she operates, like her systems. And that food journal we were keeping with her, she was like, that's not working for me because it's not how her brain is set up. So we're even digging in now to like, there's truths to the human body, but when it comes to learning and understanding those things, how you go about learning and performing affects how motivated you can be, how successful you can be in actually achieving those things. So
Exactly. I mean, it's exactly. I homeschooled my kids for a little bit, and Zach was one of my ones that learned differently than the others.
oh,
He had,
definitely.
I know he has some learning disabilities. They would never acknowledge them in school. So I retaught him things because I figured out how his brain worked, and then I could figure out how to teach him easily.
And I'm very I was a slow reader.
Yeah,
I definitely, I don't know if I think there was some point in my education where they didn't spend any time with me and I got left behind a little bit.
right,
Going into like middle school, I guess, that's when I started having anxiety about reading out loud and stuff, but I wasn't learning from reading. I wasn't comprehending. I was reading and then I get to the end of a paragraph and I was like, I don't know what I just read. I don't know. Like that's just
right.
how. So I always knew I was like a hands-on learner, but then I had to like what you're saying. I had to reteach myself how to like absorb the information I was reading so that it could actually hit. And now I learn from reading just fine,
Right.
but I also do learn better from hands-on from seeing it. Like that is a
It,
truth.
and he does much better, like if I, more verbally than written.
Okay.
I taught him a whole chemistry lesson the day before a test, and he aced it.
What? That's crazy. Just
Yeah,
because, but you verbalize the whole thing.
verbalized the whole thing.
Okay. No, that's good for me
So
to know.
some of it was math, so he had to do that part of it. But yeah, if he was to read it, he just didn't get it the whole entire time. But I took that information and put it in a way that he could understand it. And bam, he caught on that quick.
Amazing.
Isn't it crazy? But yeah, this is what makes sense to me. And seeing it written down, and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that I could do. I mean, I was shortchanging myself. I didn't think that I could do some of these things that we went through the list.
Yeah. And I mean this with complete respect and no negativity in it, but sheer ignorance holds a lot of people back just from not knowing what to do. It's like even myself, I'll open up a little bit here, and this is a recording too. So everybody else watching this, know that I'm not comfortable with talking about this all the way yet. But I just went to a psychiatrist a couple weeks ago, and I finally got diagnosed with pretty severe ADHD. And apparently that's linked to anxiety and depression pretty hard. A lot of people don't really think about it like causing those things. They just think of it as like physical hyperactivity. But I was just ignorant as to what to do to get help with my anxiety and my depression. And I've been seeing a therapist for 10 years, but that doesn't help. So finally somebody said, hey man, you need to go to a psychiatrist and get tested, and then they can maybe get you a prescription for what you need. And all of a sudden I wasn't ignorant on what I needed to do anymore, and bam bam bam, I put it in action, and here I am because I've got on a program with them now. It's
Right.
crazy.
It is crazy. And that's the same thing that's happening at the gym.
Yep. And that's why
Our
my
gym
goal,
did not know what to do that first day.
I want everybody to know these things and to gain that wisdom for themselves.
Yeah.
Big,
It's just a matter of doing what's right and what works for you. Doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone, but you can vary it to work for yourself, and then you see results.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm still in the beginning phases with that, but their whole thing is they just put me on mood stabilizing medication, so I'm not supposed to experience such highs and lows. And then after a month of that, I can start some ADHD medication. And apparently, what it's going to do is instead of having like up to 10 thoughts in my brain at one time, it's going to help me narrow it down to just about 2 or 3 of them, and I should be a little more focused. I should get bit more efficiency in my work. My relationships will probably improve. So
But you're not expecting that to happen all at once.
no, and it's a process. They couldn't just put me on the ADHD medication because they said that sometimes when you first start that, it can bring your mood down a little bit for a few weeks. And they was like, if you're already down, it can bring you real down, and that can be dangerous. So they're putting me on the mood stabilizers to help get me like on a balance. That way, when they do put me on the ADHD medication, I can control it a little bit better. And yeah, it's a process for sure.
Just like what you're teaching us. There's so many parallels. It's
There are.
interesting.
It's crazy. And in education and finances and gosh, it's all the same.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
All
Well,
right.
thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Great talking to you. I'll recap with you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
Bye.